As you know, I've lived in Thailand for some years, and it's always concerned me, or I've always been a bit surprised that not more Australian companies come here and do business, and conversely, that Thai companies don't seem to do an awful lot in Australia. Although if you look at the balance of trade, there's quite a bit of business going on, but it's one way. Heard recently about a company called AEC Group and thought we'd have a talk to them. What are they doing here? Why are they here? Why didn't they come sooner, I guess? But they're the linkage, it appears, between trying to get businesses operating and more successful, I suppose, trade between the two countries. I'm very pleased to welcome Keri Ram, who is the Executive Chairman and also the Principal Economist of the AEC Group.
Thank you very much.
Sorry we missed out last time, but we're here now. So the first area that I'd like to cover is, what is it that makes, in my mind, Australians rather reserved in coming to do business in Thailand?
Look, I think it's an issue where they've got a perception that Thailand is all about beaches and sun. I think the Tourism Department of Thailand have done a fantastic job in promoting Thailand as a holiday destination, that it's actually ingrained into Australian psyche that there's nothing more here than coconuts and beaches and sun and umbrellas. And if only Tourism Australia was as successful as promoting Australia abroad for tourism activities as what the Tourism of Thailand has done, then we might see tourism in Australia flourishing.
That's interesting how you say that, because I remember when Qantas and British Airways came together here, and the passengers of British Airways were told, you know, but now you can actually get on Qantas flights and travel up to London. And they went, no, but that's a tour traveller, you know, this is not a business class traveller. So I guess it's the same thing, isn't it? How people perceive you rather than actually what's really happening in a country.
Yes, look, it's very much. I mean, I think Australians have still got that that attitude where, you know, they're aware of what's happening in Asia at a very limited level. I mean, I think if you were to survey 1 in 10 people in the streets of Australia would actually understand that the Asian economic community is actually coming into effect in a couple of years' time. I don't think you'd find anyone with any more awareness of that massive change than that.
How significant is that really for Australia? Because it's 2015, we don't have our mind around it yet. And yet, obviously, the AEC Group sees enormous potential.
Look, I think that's the purpose of the Asian Century White Paper, is to start to get Australia looking north. You know, I think the opportunity that we're going to see with the ASEAN economic community is about creating a unified market of 600 million people. So when Australian firms are coming here, they're going to be able to target a unified market as opposed to a Malaysian market, a Thai market, an Indonesian market. And you're going to see standards that are going to be imposed across for the importation of goods and services, etc. And that's going to make it easier for Australians to access a much larger market rather than having to have individual in-country strategies. But with that is all the challenges of actually accessing and moving into a market that's essentially, 20 times larger than Australia.
Well, exactly. But we actually talk about the white paper, and yet, and you as AEC have chosen Thailand as your base. But on the white paper, Thailand didn't fare at all. So what went wrong?
Look, I think when you're looking at those sorts of papers, I think the government was really trying to look at the big picture in Asia. And look, and there's no doubting that the big picture in Asia is China.
Sure.
But the issue there is China is a particularly difficult market to actually do business in. Yes, if you're a large manufacturer in Australia, you can have the skills and resources and the long-term vision to actually enter that market. But for most small to medium-sized enterprises, and they were largely ignored by the white paper, by the way.
Yes, they were.
You know, it's the ASEAN countries that offer the opportunity. They're a lot easier to do business. They've got regulatory and accounting systems that Australians can understand.
They're compatible, in other words.
They are. And when you actually look at the ease of doing business in Australia versus the ease of doing business in Thailand, in terms of the World Bank scores, they actually rank Australia at number 11 and Thailand at number 17,
really?
And China's up in the 90s. So it was a little disappointing that that the Australian government tended to focus on the big picture for the big firms, and they forgot about some of the smaller niche markets, and that's if you can call a niche market of 600 million people small.
The AEC, your group operating in Australia, decided to come to Thailand as the base. Was that because of the Greater Mekong? Was that because of position? Was that because of... It's hard to believe that people say it's easy to do business here, because a lot of people still say it's difficult to do business. Why Thailand?
Okay, firstly, why Thailand? when we actually did our research, and research is what we're good at, we looked at a whole range of countries. Our first thoughts were we'd go to Singapore. We saw that as being the administrative centre for the greater region. It was where the capital markets were. It's where the major corporations were. That was our perception. But the reality was far more different when we actually got in and started to understand the relationships. And look, what really came out of it was that Thailand is an amazingly well-adapted emerging market.
The political situation doesn't concern you?
Well, it's a sovereign risk issue, but Australia has sovereign risk too.
That's
if
true.
you're a mining company, you would say that a super resource tax is a major sovereign risk issue.
Well, exactly.
But look, we chose Bangkok and Thailand because we see that as the new Singapore. What we found is that a lot of the clients that we were working with were actually moving their offices from Singapore to Bangkok, or they had their major regional operating headquarters here. We also see Bangkok and Thailand as being the melting pot between India and China. And you know, for Australian firms entering into China, we feel that coming through Thailand is a far more prosperous route than trying to do it directly. We have an office in Shanghai, but our regional operating headquarters outside of Australia is actually in Thailand, and we chose that because we think that will be the new Singapore, and by 2020 it will be the dynamic hub and the dynamic headquarters of the ASEAN economic community.
Do you think Australia can come to terms with how quickly they can actually access this 600 million, given the fact that 2015 is a couple of years away and we've still got a long way to go?
Well, we're hoping that the Asian Century White Paper will see an increase in activity of firms actually coming up here. That's what we're hoping that'll do. That'll lift that awareness. Obviously, we need the government to give us some strong initiatives to enable the firms to have those incentives to actually come up here and have a look. That's why we're proposing initiatives like the Export Facilitation Incubator. We see that as the logical steps that will help firms transition from a domestic market to a global market.
That's something that we want to discuss, but that's actually the incubator program is, I was given that by Mark the other day, is quite extensive, so I'd like to talk about that at another stage. When we look at your role here, now clearly you're the big business that's going from Thailand into Australia, potentially is energy, in summary. There might be some manufacturing, but it's not manufacturing, there might be some consumables that spawn in relationship. How do you fit into, how does AEC fit into this opportunity? Do you actually consult to companies? Do you actually do strategic papers? Do you actually talk about how it is easy to do business? How do you fit in?
Well, I suppose we're like the hands-on practical partners that help firms enter these sorts of markets. So we'll help them come up with their feasibility assessments as into which ASEAN member that they're looking at wanting to enter, the pros and cons, the risks and benefits. We help devise those market entry strategies. We then help them with their global supply chain networks, and we even then go right down to the grassroots of actually helping them find their office space, helping them with their company establishment, helping them get through their accounting.
Full service? Well,
full service, because it's a challenging environment to actually move up here and to actually understand local HR laws, local accounting laws, local tax laws. And unless you've got that friendly partner on the ground, you can make some horribly expensive mistakes. And what we've found is that our clients are wanting our assistance to do all those sorts of tasks. So we've actually got quite a talented team here that cover basically woe to go of establishing in Thailand or Southeast Asia.
All right. We talk about the big business, and the imbalance in trade obviously is the money that's going down into Australia in terms of energy, mining and other things too. It's quite the opposite coming this way.
Look, unfortunately...
What can we do? What can you do?
Okay. Well, we're trying to correct that. At the moment, we're seeing basically for every $1 of Australian investment in Thailand, we're seeing $5 go the other way. I don't think many Australians are aware of that. I think what we're trying to do is we're trying to raise the awareness of not just Thailand, but ASEAN as an investment opportunity. What we're saying to Australian firms is that this is an easier choice when you're wanting to globalise and grow beyond the Australian domestic market, that Southeast Asia is a logical progression for you. China is a very tough market. India is an even tougher market. And what we're saying is you really should be putting your feet in the water in a place like Thailand where the risk is so much less.
And it's a step to the next.
And then it's a step to China. Now, we're starting to get a lot of traction with that. We've had a number of clients that are taking that advice. We've had a recent food manufacturer arrive from Australia.
I've seen this lady on television, and what I can't understand, I know she's part-Thai, but why the manufacturing base here? I mean, okay, it might be the costs of labour are cheaper, but is there any other reasons? Why did you move here?
No, look, it's about linking into global supply chains.
And this is more central? And what about product-based too, I suppose?
Thailand is one of the global centres of food manufacture. I mean, if you take a look at the expansion of CP Group right across the world,
true.
I mean, Thailand has the resources, it's got the skills, and it's linked into that global supply chain. And for a firm that's manufacturing food in Australia and then wanting to supply that food into Europe and into the USA and Canada, it's very, very hard. So you've actually got to be close to that global supply chain so you can link into those distribution networks. And that's what we're seeing. So that's an Australian firm. It's still going to retain its presence in Australia. It's still going to support its domestic market. It's wanting to grow more products into its domestic market, but it's actually starting to say, we're going to take on the world. We're going to put our products on supermarket shelves in the UK. We're going to put our products on supermarket shelves in the USA. And that's a great story.
You're talking about a 5-to-1 ratio at the moment. With you being here, with your facilitation through the BOI, through companies, through large companies, small companies, SMEs, whatever it is, where do you see the balance being in 3 to 5 years, and where do you see AEC being in that period of time?
Look, from our perspective, we see Thailand as being our regional operating headquarters. What we would like to see is offices in Jakarta, offices in Singapore, but we
full
still
service.
Full service, and that's about being able to help firms grow into the total opportunities that we see within Southeast Asia. As I said, a 600 million person market is a significant market. I mean, China's significantly larger, but you know, it's not much more than India.
Why did it take you so long to come here?
I suppose, like many Australian companies, is that we were worried about how we were going to handle the expansion. We were concerned about learning the culture, and Thailand well, Southeast Asia generally is a different culture. What we found here is that business is relationship driven. In Australia, business is very impersonal. It's contractually driven.
It's not what you know, it's who you know here and the relationships you develop.
Yeah, and you've got to build that. I think Australia was like that 20 years ago, but we've lost that. We've become very impersonal, whereas Thailand hasn't lost that. And look, I think that, you know, it's about making those long-term relationships and having an investment horizon with your Thai partners that's 20 years or 50 years, intergenerational, rather than just looking to the next contract. And that's the fundamental difference that I suppose we as a firm had to come to grips with. And that's why myself as the chairman is actually leading that drive, so that I can actually bring that cultural difference back into Australia.
That's absolutely critical. You've heard it all from the Executive Chairman of AEC. I have to say that it hasn't happened before time. We actually need to get this whole process going, but I hope Australians watching the program will see the opportunities from the 600 million people here. And conversely, for Thai companies, all you need to do is find out what's happening in Australia, contact AEC. Kerry, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you.